1 second to set this up. Let's see. Hi. Yeah, Larry was my teacher in OEZ, which is amazing. And Larry did a fantastic job at preparing me to begin my teaching career. And in every class, I remember being so focused on taking in all of the curriculum ideas, all of the how do I teach language, how do I teach math, despite the fact that Larry, in his teaching and in his expertise, focuses on bullying, focuses on the classroom connection. I, as a young teacher, just kept thinking, what's the ministry expectation? How do I address the curriculum? How do I focus on that daunting task of teaching children how to read and how to write? And I took that passion and I took that energy directly into the classroom. And I did a fantastic job at getting the expectations that the ministry gave us. I did a fantastic job at having rubrics after rubrics and expectation for all of my social studies, for every single thing academic to teach the children. And I was always on top of those skills. And by the time report cards came, I could write them no problem. And parent-teacher interview, I was really able to sit down with the parents and to go over a very intimate, detailed account of how their child was reading, how their child was writing, how they were doing in math. And I was able to really walk through with them what their child needed to work on. And then I would address the social-emotional curriculum. I would address those expectations on the report card, satisfactory needs improvement for self-regulation, for ability for self-control, for motivation, for attention. And I would address it with the parents. You know, your child really needs to work on his self-control. Your child really is not listening in class very much, and I keep, asking him to listen. He really, really needs to pay more attention in class. And one of two things happened in those parent-teacher interviews. They either totally agreed with me. They're like, yes, we have that exact same problem at home. He doesn't listen. He's never on task. He runs around. We really have this problem. We agreed with each other. Yep, this is a problem. And that was the end of that parent-teacher interview. I didn't have all of the knowledge and all the skills to take those next steps with those parents for how we were going to help them with that problem. The other thing that happened a lot in the parent-teacher interviews is the parents disagreed with me. And they said, no, at home, Billy really, he's very compliant, very easy at home. He sits and he draws for hours and he really is engaged with what he's doing. And the parents disagreed with my needs improvement, satisfactory comment on some of these social emotional skills. And I didn't have those sort of next steps for the child. When it came to reading, if I had a child who struggled in reading, I would know exactly how to help those parents with a reading program. If I said your child is struggling and is reading at a grade 3 level and he's in grade 5, I had the tools to be able to help the parents with the program. And I didn't have that full understanding of the social emotional in order to help them. And one of the things that I've really learned over time is how those behaviors are so inconsistent in different spaces and in different environments and in different activities. And the more we can learn about all of the different social emotional skills and the stress of the child in these skills, the more that we can help them. And so I have a stress curve that really, really helped me begin to understand how some of these children function in the classroom, how they function differently at home, on the playground, and in the classroom. And sometimes the children, they are not stressed. They are calm, they're regulated, they're ready to learn. Sometimes they're a little bit more stressed, and in those times, that's a really great opportunity for us to be able to help them. And sometimes they are very stressed, like myself right now. And if you had seen me over there, when Catherine asked all of you guys to do that activity with the car, I said, I can't do it right now because I'm practicing for my speech. I'm ready to speak on my speech, and it's all I can think about right now is the fact that I have to speak in front of you. Larry, he was just able to continue talking. He has no problem talking in front of people. my stress level is at its peak, and therefore I was at my maximum, and I was not able to use any of my other skills. I was not in a position to be able to learn. I was not in a position to be able to engage in other chit-chat conversation. And if stressors started to come at me, someone started asking me to do things, someone started to push me, I would have melted down. And this is what's happening in our classroom to our students. Some of our students come into every single classroom, and they are stressed as they come into the classroom. Some of our classrooms, when they walk outside at recess and the playground is huge and it's unstructured, they lose that ability to self-regulate. And as they hit those, and then other students are running up and bumping into them, other students are grabbing their ball, they lose all of their ability to use those skills that they have, that they can use at home, that they can use in the classroom, and they're not able to draw on those skills, and then we have these challenges. And if we think about when we're discussing the children who do struggle, the children who are consistently getting into trouble, we're often talking about them in the high stress situation. We're talking about them when they are stressed out, when they're not able to use their skills. For me, for instance, it would be very hard if when you talked about me at my highest stress level. I would say, that's not me, that's not how I normally am. That was me once the demands of the environment exceeded my ability to cope, and I shut down. With these kids, if they're in this peak as often, then that's their main exposure, and that's how we are talking about them. So we really want to take the time to figure out, where do these children do well? Where are they comfortable? In what environments can they function? And how can we more often support them in those environments when they are able to draw on their skills and they're able to use them? So one of the most important things for parent-teacher interview, which is coming up next week, is to really think about that, and to think about getting insight from the parents about when these children do well, in what environments they're successful, and to be able to use that information to develop a plan in order to help these children. So one of the things that we want to do at parent-teacher interview is we don't want to say things like, your child needs to improve his self-regulation skills, your child needs to improve her organization skills, your child needs to improve these skills. We want to ask the parents questions so that we can get more information about the child. And when we're talking about social emotional skills, there are 5 domains of development, and you all have the handout, which is that one, thank you. This is an individual survey, which is looking at the 5 main developmental domains for children: the physical, the language, social, and emotional. And this is an interesting thing about calling it social emotional skills and social emotional intelligence, is that that term is referring to 2 out of the 5 domains that really, really impact these children's behavior. And we don't always think about the physical impact. We don't always think about the language. We're always talking about social emotional skills, and there's so much more to that. And one of the main ones is physical. If you just think about some of these kids physically who really have a hard time moving around the classroom, who bump into their friends every single time they move around the classroom, who during gym class really struggle to move, we're missing how that impacts every single activity that they do. So if we just think about basic motor planning, the ability to plan and sequence a movement that so many of us take for granted. Oh, I'm thirsty. Oh, I'm going to grab the glass of water, and I'm going to lift it, and I'm going to drink. That was fluid for me, and it came naturally. Some of these children, that movement and planning sequence doesn't come naturally for them. I saw the most fantastic video of 2 kids in SK, and one of them, a typically developing child, he got up to do a relay race, and the occupational therapist showed him the relay race. And it was a very simple relay race, so she very quickly just said, go over, under, through, and you'll be on your way. And the kid was able to just even see what to do, and then she said, go. So he moved around, he crawled through the tube, he grabbed the swing, and as he grabbed the swing, he just grabbed it with both hands, and got on, and the occupational therapist was to the side, and she asked him a question. And as he swung, he just answered to her, yep, got off the swing, did the rest of the relay race. And when he was done, the OT came over and asked him a few questions, and he answered them quickly, no problem. Then the other boy came over, and this boy has motor planning challenges. This boy, there's no diagnosis for him. He walks, he moves, he crawled late, he walked late, he did everything late, and the parents were always a little worried about him. And his teachers were always saying, oh, no problem, lots of kids are slow, lots of kids move slowly, don't worry about it. This boy doing the obstacle course, before he starts, the OT even knows that she has to show him the obstacle course 5 times. Then she has to walk him through the obstacle course. And then when it's his turn to get the obstacle course, each movement is slow. Each movement is deliberate. Even before he starts the obstacle course, she gives him the first movement, and she moves him into the obstacle course. And so then he starts. And when he goes to grab the swing, he grabs it with one hand, and he looks. He turns his whole body. He looks to the other one. He goes to start to get on the swing. She knows he can't get on by himself. She gives him that little push up. He starts to swing. She asks him a question from the side. He doesn't even respond. He doesn't move. He doesn't acknowledge it. He's so focused on what he's doing. He moves through the rest of the obstacle course. When he's done, he's staring at the wall. And she comes over. She doesn't ask him the questions. She doesn't even try and engage with him because he needs a minute to recuperate. Now, that first child in gym class, when we're summarizing his gym class, what do we say about him on his report card? What do we say about him in terms of his effort in gym class? Excellent, amazing, great job. And the second, what might we say on his effort during gym class? That would be great, and we might say that. We might also say, like to see more hustle, would like to see more movement. He might be the boy in gym class that we were saying, come on, Billy, come on, go faster, put a hustle into it. And that we might be pushing, and we might be saying, try harder too. Which child is actually trying harder? The second one. It's taking every single thing out of him to just do those basic movements. And so these are the children who are in our classrooms with us. And these are the children who keep missing out on things because the actual activity is really hard. And that might be the same child that if we said to the parents, oh, is he doing a lot of extracurricular activities at school? No, after school, no, we tried to sign him up for soccer and hockey, but you know what, he hated it, so we let him quit. Because it's too hard. These are domains of development. And his developmental age group, the sports are just too hard for him. And so slowly, he pulls back and pulls back. And so if anything, we can encourage those parents to keep going with the sports and to keep helping them with those movements at levels that are just right for the child. And so I always say to parents, if your child's, if he's 5 to 7 years old, put him in as many sporting activities as you can for 5-year-olds, that you're always going in the lower age group so that he's getting a chance to continue to experience those sports at a lower. And in our gym classes, that there are some great opportunities to do ability grouping, because very often in class, we're doing ability grouping for reading, but we might not always think about doing ability grouping for those relay races and for those obstacle courses. We like to mix those up and to make sure we have a stronger peer showing another peer how to move. And so it's really great to be able to adjust our classroom and to make sure that we're having ability-based grouping for physical movement as well. And so these are all different things that the children can experience in class and makes everything in class hard for them to do. Every movement for this child is hard. Every way of playing at recess is hard. And so it's something that we can always be a little bit aware of. And so the survey, it goes on and it basically is asking you to look at different behaviors that you see in the classroom and how those behaviors tell us a little bit about what a child is struggling with. And if we see that a child is constantly struggling in group work, we can start to see what it is that the child is struggling with and why, and we can be in there to support the child. 2 minutes. So another example that I have here is, so instead of saying about the one child, your child isn't able to share, your child really is struggling with play at the carpet, you could try saying during parent-teacher interview, I've noticed that Steve struggles to share toys at the carpet during free play. If another child comes over, he holds his toys tight and tends not to let them have a turn. Have you noticed something similar at home? And this goes back to getting information about how the child is in a calm environment and how the child is in that environment which is stressful for the child. And maybe the parent might say something like, no, at home, everything is totally fine. He plays Lego on the carpet with his sister. He shares really well with her. Everything is great at home. And then you might think, okay, well, what does it look like at school when he is stressed out, when things go badly? Maybe they're sharing trains at the carpet, and maybe he's sharing with a few kids that are really, really high energy and are constantly running up to him, and instead of saying, can I have your toy, they're grabbing and they're banging into him and they're sort of spitting in his face as they're asking to share that toy. And of course, in that environment, that is much more stressful. So what we want to do is we want to think about how can we take some of the things that we learn about him in a less stressed environment and where he struggles in the high environment, and how can we make this something that we can actually teach and support in the classroom? How can we make a situation where we're giving him an opportunity that's challenging for him, but just at his right level, just at something that he can work on? And so maybe we would say to the parents, are you on board to help with this? Can you do some work with your child at home, and we'll do some work at school, and we'll really work on the sharing. And at home, they could take the trains. They could work on something that's hard for the child. And they could maybe have friends over, the children in the class that are hard to deal with. And at school, you could be taking you could be working with the Lego. And the reason I use the different objects in your playing is that the very fact that it's an object that's a high interest to the child could be what would make it hard for the child to share. So as opposed to thinking, oh, he's not motivated, he doesn't want to share, he doesn't like the object, it actually might be that it's the object itself that he loves so much and really, really wants to play with, that's why he can't share it. And so sometimes it's really good to even figure out what it is that the child can play with and share with others, and what it is that he is so attached to that he's not able to share. And then again, within the classroom, you could section out an area so that it's a bit calmer, and you could bring in one peer at a time and then teach that child some moment-to-moment strategies for how you can help facilitate that sharing. And so moment-to-moment strategies are tools that we can give to children to help each other share and help with peer facilitation, help with teaching with each other how to better interact, so that instead of it always being the adult that comes in, often if you look in the classroom, the kids are always saying, Miss, he's not sharing, and we come running in to save it and help, and oh, what's wrong? Okay, they're not sharing. Okay, how about you guys share? And the conversation is very adult-based. It's child speaking to adult, then the other child, and the adult can solve the problem. I once was watching in this, the teacher said, you need to say sorry, and then Bobby apologized to the teacher, and I said, okay, great, and then they left. And we want to make sure that we are not always a part of it, because the more we're a part of it, then the more they're dependent upon us. And so we can help give strategies that have the children doing the interaction and help with child-to-child dialogue and child-to-child facilitation and not involve us. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot more time on the first one to be willing to sit there and as they're telling us, say, don't tell me this is a discussion with your friend. I didn't do it. and to move them, move their bodies so that they're speaking shoulder to shoulder, so that their bodies are facing each other, and so that they're communicating with each other instead of through you. So, okay, that's the wrap. And I do apologize because I find it very hard to speak in front of people. And so this was, had a few more difficult moments, but okay.